Fleet radio is the new big thing, or should that be the new big little thing? Around the country, people are starting up their stations in their bedrooms, living rooms, or just random rooms they find around town. In a moment, Mike will be talking to Andrew Dubber, a lecturer in radio from AUT. But first, here's Ollie with the story.
Back in the day, when changing the station actually meant touching that dial, people tended to stay loyal to just one station. These days, a simple press of the button and you're effortlessly scanning the airwaves. But the number of stops on that spectrum is on the rise. Welcome to the world of guard-band radio.
You're on 88.3 Fleet FM.
Fleet FM is one of the many low-powered FM stations currently on air in Auckland City. With little more than 1,000 listeners and half a watt of power, they still manage to fill a niche.
As we want to play it, we play it, and most of the stuff's really good. So it may not be commercially viable for some of the bigger commercial radio stations. It might not be the right BPM or something like that, but we'll play it because it's good music and because it's local.
Fleet is entirely non-commercial and survives through donations from its 70-odd DJs, not unlike community radio.
Yeah, I'd say it's real community. We've got even our gig guide, if you look at that, it's sort of most of the people on there are part of the Fleet FM community in a way. It's sort of, we have a lot of artists and things which are involved with the station as well. It's sort of, we're all supporting each other, getting our own stuff out there.
Of course, Fleet FM isn't without its competition. Aside from the many commercial giants with bandwidth to burn, other low-powered radio stations are popping up all over New Zealand.
I think the nature of our radio stations over here open up things like possibilities for community radio stations because of the style that they are. They're not quite as commercial as other stations possibly could be overseas. They, encourage anybody to just give it a go, just get involved with music and stuff. I think that it's not that they're not filling a gap. I think that they're actually, encouraging it.
With nothing invested, they've got nothing to lose. So next time you're in Auckland City, spare a thought for the little guy.
Radio, fun. Now with us in the studio is Andrew Dubber. He's a broadcasting lecturer and radio columnist. Andrew, welcome to the Flipside Studios. These small stations, absolute brilliant though in terms of offering a chance, offering a bit of fun. Do you think there's too many of them?
There's certainly a lot of radio stations in the Auckland market. There's more than 35 radio stations. But coupled with that is people like to be on the radio. People have things to say. They want to play music that they like. And the commercial radio industry doesn't cater to everybody, so it does offer the opportunity to get a bit out there.
Is it because it's so easy to set up that we're seeing a lot of them? Because look in Auckland, you've got Julia 107.5, you've got Twisted 107.7, you've got AUT Static on 88.1, Fleet on 88.3, KFM on 106.9, free plugs for them all just then. But is it too easy?
Well, it's certainly easy. I mean, you can plug a computer into a transmitter and have a radio station. In fact, some of the commercial giants do that. Cool Blue is a computer in a cupboard. But most people want to set up a low-power radio station because they have something to say and they have something that they want to do and they have music that they want to play, and it's that kind of hands-on liveness. So a couple of CD players and a microphone and you can get your voice out there.
Some great radio stations being born from the back of rooms and flats. Are they legal, though?
Well, they're legal as long as they operate within certain criteria. There is what we call the guard band, which is sort of the space outside of the main FM broadcasting band, which is sort of the reserve space between FM and, say, air traffic control. But it's no bother if people operate their garage door remote controls or, say, a little radio station at that spectrum. We're not talking about a lot of power. We're talking about sort of about half the amount of power that your cell phone puts out. But because it's got that kind of maybe 2K radius coverage, you can actually get people tuning in and picking it up.
What would be the first step you'd take if you wanted to whack one of these radio stations together in your garage?
Well, first of all, you'd contact the Ministry of Economic Development, get hold of Spectrum Management Group and say, what are the rules? And they'll tell you, you've got to be half a watt or less, you've got to operate within these frequencies, and you've got to not conflict with anybody else. But if you're doing that, and you've got a transmitter, switch it on, plug in and go.
Somebody sent through a great question. Ethan sent through one. Do you have to pay royalties?
Yeah, you do have to pay royalties if you're making a profit. If you are, you might have to pay a small consideration to APRA, which is the body that represents the composers and so on, and to REANZ, who look after the mechanical rights. But ultimately, copyright is usually worked out for radio stations to pay based on a percentage of their revenue. And if you're not making any money, any percentage of that is going to be nothing.
If all these small radio stations are offering a voice, a political view, an alternative, perhaps, air, then why is there still a need for a youth radio network? Isn't that fulfilling the role?
Well, the youth radio network's a really contentious issue, and there are all sorts of takes. My own personal take is, yeah, do it, but do it younger, because nobody's catering to kids.
Right.
The youth radio network issue is really about having a voice that the whole country can hear, and having that kind of connectedness between Invercargill and Kaitaia and all these other places, that everybody hears the same thing. So you've got this sort of shared sense of what it means to be a New Zealander. These low-power FM stations don't actually address any of that. This is just about having fun, playing music you like, and getting your voice out there.
What happens when these fun small radio stations start branching into perhaps bigger networks? George FM in Auckland, prime example, started in the backyard with Thane and the boys, and now it's broadcast on the Sky Digital network, amongst other low-powered frequencies, and, you know, kind of got that sense of being a commercial network. I mean, how do you stop it from becoming a commercial network?
Well, it depends on whether you want to or not. I mean, Thane and Jeff Kay are both very, very smart people, and they figured that, you know, this is something that we would like to make our living at. We want this to be our life. And if you're passionate about doing something and you want that to be your career, why not build it into something that makes money? Now, they've been very clever about it. They've got other ways of sort of getting in and getting the signal out there. They've used the Sky Digital network. They've worked in with local iwi, and they've managed to organise it so that they can actually do it and survive, you know.
Is the Sky Digital network, would you theme that as a radio network, though?
Well, it's not radio. I mean, radio is essentially about having a transmitter that broadcasts an FM signal. As soon as you put it on Sky Digital, it stops being something other than radio. As soon as you put it on the internet, it's something other than radio. It's just a different way of distributing audio.
In the future, do you think internet's going to take over radio in New Zealand? A lot of people are talking about that at the moment.
Well, the problem with internet is it's not very portable. Right. It's based on a screen, which radio isn't. And it's the idea of the internet is that it's interactive and it's digital and it's non-linear. You can skip and follow links and all the rest of it. Radio is just something that you dip in and out of, and it continues whether you're listening or not. So the actual what the internet is and what radio is are two completely different things. They can work together, but they don't always.
Nothing wrong with these small stations. Do you encourage people to give it a go if they can?
Absolutely. In fact, I mean, the more, as far as I'm concerned, the more the merrier. Especially, I mean, we've got a lot in Auckland. There are a hell of a lot of stations in Auckland. But if people have any kind of desire to go and set up a radio station, more power to them, wherever they are. Just find out how to do it and go for it.
And what was that webpage where's the first place you go?
Ministry of Economic Development, right. med.govt.nz, and look for Spectrum Management.
Very good. Andrew Dubber, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. Well, coming up, lucky old Evie finds herself an